Today, I'm looking at Resonance, a point-and-click game developed by 12 Games and published by Wadjet Eye Games. For a good point-and-click game, there are only two things to really discuss: the story and the puzzles. So this review may be a bit more spoilery than others. The game uses a low-res sprite aesthetic. They were clearly looking to capture some nostalgia points, and it works. The backgrounds are well drawn with plenty of detail, and more importantly, they're consistent, which can be an issue with some 2D point-and-click games. The sprites are easy to read, and they meld with the environments. The animations, although simple, do a good enough job conveying the actions and emotions. Resident does feature full voice acting, which is neat. They do not voice the thought bubbles, only actual dialogue, which is a nice trick that they use to reduce the amount of actual voice acting without making it seem out of place.
Breaking regulations.
Gameplay is fairly standard point-and-click fare, although they added a couple of things. Throughout the game, you will have control of up to 4 characters. You have to switch between the 4. Each have their own inventory, personalities, and specialties. Because of this, some characters are needed for some puzzles, other characters can't do those puzzles. This has a downside, though, of a lot of inventory management. I spent a lot of time passing items from person to person to person, and remembering who has what can get to be a little bit of a chore. This also results in some meta-knowledge issues. Sometimes when one of the characters sees something, they all know it, even though they have no reason to all know it yet. This happens when more than one character will need a specific event in their long-term memory. Long-term memory and short-term memory are the other major gameplay element. And honestly, I rather like these. Long-term memory allows you to rewatch important moments in case you need to refer to what happened during them. This works much better than just a notebook system where it just writes out, say, what somebody said. It's just a neater way of doing it. You can also use them as conversation topics. Short-term memory is similar, but you can drag and drop any interactive feature from the environment in there, and you can use them as conversation topics. I really like the idea behind the short-term memory, but sadly it's underused in Resonance. You only need to use it 4 or 5 times, and when you do need it, it's always something in the same screen as the NPC you need to use it with. Puzzle design is really solid. You have some typical point-and-click find the item, use on thing puzzles, but they mix them in with puzzles. Oddly, some of the puzzles seem to be skippable or just pointless. For example, I found this control panel. You can repair it and open a door to an area you can already access, and you can't even walk through the door, so I'm not entirely sure why it's there. I'm thinking it might be left over from a previous build or something? I have no idea. The puzzle solutions follow good logic. I rarely had to resort to pixel hunting or just clicking random items on everything and hoping to find the right combination. Most of these solutions are either intuitive enough or just require you to visit more locations to find the correct solution. I did get stumped by one puzzle, however, around the middle of the game. There's this string of puzzles that are interconnected a bit, but I didn't realize that. I was trying to solve one puzzle completely before moving on to the others, but had not progressed through the other puzzles long enough to have a specific long-term memory that was required for the first puzzle. And thanks to a red herring, I didn't even think that I was missing something. I thought there was a way to get this code to hack into a computer, and it doesn't matter. But I actually did consult a walkthrough for this one puzzle, but that was the only puzzle that I had to get help to solve, so that's actually pretty good on the logic works side of things. The story is where this game really shines. The characters are well developed start to finish. The game opens with this news broadcast hook that's actually pretty good for getting you interested. Then they introduce you to Ed, who's the first of the 4 main characters. His place is a dump, we don't know why. At first you follow each of the 4 characters separately and get to know them a little bit. Then the plot drives them together, and from there on you're using at least 2 of them at a time. The story has really good pacing, which is the holy grail of storytelling, and it's told really well. The characters are believable. I found myself growing attached to them. The plot twist, and there is a big one. I kind of saw it coming, but they took it further than I thought they ever would, and I was actually genuinely surprised, which is always great to see in a game. I'm not spoiling it, though. Unfortunately, the story has a bad side, specifically the science. It's a science fiction story at its core, and the science is fuzzy at best. I'm fairly certain that if you have a metal shoulder, as Ed claims, and you're standing this close to a magnet that can do this to a box, you're screwed. I'm also fairly sure that sonograms don't work like this, but I can overlook it in these cases because they do make good puzzles. That's not even getting into the whole resonance weapon concept that's behind a lot of the plot of the game. I don't even know how likely that is. They probably shouldn't have even tried to really explain it. If they had just said, these two things make super weapon go boom, I would have been, okay, sure, that's great. But they get into this whole electrons made of two particles vibrating and snapping together. I don't know. If you can look past it, it's not all bad, but if you're really picky about realistic science, it might get to you or yank you out of the story, which isn't necessarily a good thing. Overall, Resonance is a solid point-and-click game. I enjoyed my time with it, despite the flaws. But then again, I am a fan of point-and-click puzzle games, so yeah. It took me about 8 hours to finish the game, which is honestly a good length for a point-and-click game, especially when priced at $10. Just don't expect a masterwork of science fiction with this one. Well, that wraps up this review. Let me know what you think, and talk it out.